Welcome to the Spectrum Lounge podcast, where we discuss creatives of color disrupting the game in TV, film, and pop culture. I am your host, Rebecca Theodore-Vachon, and on this episode, we speak with TV and film critics Shannon L. Miller, Joelle Monique, and Clarkisha Kent for a deep dive into episode 5 of Lovecraft Country. Please note, this episode has major spoilers, as well as discussion of rape and sexual violence. So we have gathered this coven of fabulous Black women together because we want to talk about episode 5 of Lovecraft Country, which will be airing this Sunday. So that's the 13th, correct? Sunday on HBO. We all were able to get advanced screeners, so we've already seen it, and all of us have been pretty much holding our tongues because I'm assuming all of you guys saw it like weeks ago, right? So like 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah,
I watched it for the first time 2 days ago, and I've seen it 3 times since.
Yeah, mine was yesterday.
Yours was yesterday.
Yeah, because I was like, let me catch up to everybody, you know.
Yeah, like everybody that I've talked to with Lovecraft Country, it's like, what do you think of the show? I'm like, it's great, it's brilliant, it's this. And then I always end with, wait till you get to episode 5. That's all I keep telling everybody because they're not ready. They're like, what can you tell us? And I'm like, I can't tell you anything. All I know is I hope that Twitter has like some backup support because I'm predicting that Twitter is going to fucking crash on Sunday night. I don't think people are ready. Really. It's wild. So the episode is titled A Strange Case, and it is actually directed by Cheryl Dunye, who is a rather well-known Black lesbian director. I think she directed The Watermelon Woman, right? And so, yeah. So I'm going to start like just kind of going around like just your initial thoughts of episode 5. So I'll start with you, Shannon, and then Joelle, and then Clarkisha, and then we'll just, keep going around. What did you guys think of episode 5?
I mean,
and spoilers. I'll just put a disclaimer. If you have not seen episode 5 yet, please don't listen to this podcast. There's going to be lots of spoilers. So feel free to discuss all the plot points.
Oh, good. I'm really glad you said that because this is definitely not the episode to hold back because this episode didn't hold back. I thought that it was an ideal encapsulation of what it means between how Black women navigate this world versus how we would like to navigate this world.
Absolutely.
And I thought the imagery and what everyone needs to know off rip, I don't do horror. I don't do like recreational scare jumps and gore and things like that. I usually frolic over in rom-com land. That's where I'm safest. That's where I'm whole. So this has been a really eye-opening experience for me in terms of the things that I look for in storytelling. And horror and gore tend to do a really good job, at least depending on whose hands it's in, do a really good job of sort of distilling experiences in imagery. And I think that Lovecraft Country thus far has done it so expertly. But episode 5, my God, I mean, to talk about, there's just so much to dig into with it. You can talk about the safety of, or the perceived safety about, like, the proximity to whiteness. You can talk about, what that comfort level of that sort of deceit that you feel when you finally have that proximity or assimilation and then realize, oh no, you are still very much Black. There is just so much to dig into here. And it was easily my favorite episode of the batch of episodes that we saw. So I'm really excited to dig in and to get into some details here.
Okay. What did you think, Joelle?
Yeah, just piggybacking off of that, beyond the ideals of like what this episode really digs into the idea of like, what is it, not just to be Black on the outside, but on the inside, right? How would you feel walking around in white skin, which I think anybody who's felt discriminated against at some point has wondered, like, if I looked like I fit and belonged in this world, what would my day play out like? So they take that, but then expand upon it to the point of like, how do you represent yourself within your own culture? How do you represent yourself to yourself? Like
Mm-hmm.
these deep, deep thoughts on like then what is beauty even in these minutes of gore. There's the way they evolve the transition of going from being a white person to, or going from being a black person living in white skin to being her authentic self, these metamorphoses as they call them, the way they're shot evolves over time so that that
Oof.
final one hits you straight in the heart because you're seeing not just a difference in skin tone, not just a difference in height, not just a difference in weight, but a difference in shape, right? And like,
Mm-hmm.
what does it like? A strong black woman's body is familiar to all of us because we come from black women, right? I know what my mother's shoulders feel like, and I know what it is to hold her, and I know what it is to live and exist in that skin. And so to show it in a way that is not just gory, but is literally ripping away the ideal and stepping into a self. The Ruby's transformation internally throughout this episode is, I cling to it. I love Ruby. Like I liked
Mm-hmm.
Ruby before. I was so entranced by the performance of Ruby, but there's like, she's like my ride or die now. I want to
Mm-hmm.
see Ruby in 6 million different things. Let's get her as many outfits as Miss Journey has had. I want to dress her up and make her pretty and take her out. And like, there's definitely a message of self love wrapped in this horror story. And it's very brilliant.
Okay. What did you think, Clarkisha?
So I love stories and storytellers who aren't afraid to get a little messy, a little in your face, a little maybe slightly heavy handed on the message they're trying to tell. I like storytellers who are fearless like that. So when I read the synopsis before I watched the episode, right? When I read the synopsis of this episode and what Ruby ends up asking for, I was like, ooh, this is spicy. Like, ooh. Oh, I want to see what they do with this. I'm intrigued. You have my attention, you know? And I don't know. Like, I'm really interested to see what the wider reception will be to it. Because me personally, I know how I feel. I think that a lot of us, whether we want to be transparent about it or not, have had like that split second moment in time where we're like, you know what? What would it be like to be a white person? Like, what would it like to not have to worry about this extra shit? Like, you know, because there's already shit we worry about, like living, right? You know, but this extra layer of, I don't even know what to call it. Like, I don't want to necessarily say obstacles because I don't view my blackness as an obstacle, but there are certain obstacles that are associated, you know, just,
Well, your
you know,
blackness is not an obstacle, but the world is certainly going to put hurdles in front
yes,
of you because you're black.
because of it, yeah. So, yeah, I feel like a lot of us have had that slow moment, like what if I just didn't have to deal with this, you know? And kind of seeing Ruby have that split second moment, but then have her split second wish granted was so interesting to me. Because I've been watching the series carefully and kind of trying to suss out outside of the main story, like what are the family dynamics, like on top of like racism, right? How is colorism functioning here? Because I feel like that's a part of everything. That's an undercurrent in everything, even our stories, right? So with that in mind, seeing Letitia and Ruby interact, having that be the undercurrent, and then having Ruby go through this really interesting story by way of a literal deal with the devil. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was a really smart way to engage that. I thought picking Ruby to do it was perfect. I would have had a huge issue with it if that storyline had went to Letitia. I'd be like,
Yeah.
you're part of me,
Yeah. Yes.
pretty light skinned.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So giving her the storyline, I feel like would have been like, oh, so y'all really just don't. Again, we have another show that doesn't get it, that doesn't get that racism and colorism are bed buddies, you know, like that doesn't understand it. So I'm really glad they gave that to Ruby. And then obviously getting her, like seeing her in real time navigate whiteness as a white woman, you know, like was really like I feel like we'll be talking about this episode for a long time. As one of the series'
I think
standouts.
so too. I did want to rewind because before we start on episode 5, like with like the nitty gritty of episode 5, I did want to rewind a little bit to episode 4 because the setup is there, right? Ruby is at a bar. She's feeling really raw because from episode 3, she and Letitia had this huge blowout. And like you said, Clarkisha, there's a lot of tension between the Letitia and Ruby dynamic. A lot of, some of it is grounded in colorism because Ruby is darker skinned and she's, fuller figured, and Letitia is lighter skinned and slimmer, right? And not to say that immunizes her from racism, but there is a certain way that Letitia navigates in the world versus Ruby. And so in episode 4, we find Ruby at the bar. She's nursing a drink. And then that's when William, who is sort of Christina's companion / accomplice, walks in, and they so he basically talks her up at the bar, and they end up going back to his place, and they have this very spicy sex scene. And I wanted to talk to you guys because what was very interesting to me was that when the episode aired, because I believe HBO Max aired, they dropped it like 2 days before the air date on Sunday. I think they dropped it on Friday because of the Labor Day holiday. And so already I had just put a tweet out on Saturday, and I was just like, I'm just really curious to see what I'm ready to discuss the Ruby William, dynamic or whatever, the sex scene. And what was interesting to me, I wanted to ask you guys about that. What was interesting to me was that I was getting comments saying that the sex scene looked uncomfortable because why would you have sex on the stairs? And I was like, that's what y'all got from the scene? But okay.
The problem was stairs, not anything else.
Listen, as somebody who was there's a lot to get out of that scene, but the stairs do look uncomfortable, man. That's a lot of you holding yourself up, getting digged down, like trying not to fall down. It did a little, it was like spicy, and there's so much to get out of. Like, my God, look at this woman being lusted after. Look at her being like genuinely cared for in this moment. Look at like her sexual desire being put first. Like, all of that is hyper important. I also did think the stairs looked uncomfortable.
But it's interesting because like we see so many sex scenes with skinnier folk, and a lot of times that doesn't look comfortable either. Like they'll be like up against walls and just like wheelbarrowing in the middle of the floor, and like it's like that. Like there's just this level of uncomfortability, I think, that is always like filtered through these lustful scenes to sort of emphasize like this person wanting this other person any way that they can get them.
Yes.
I'm not about to be on any stairs. You won't find me on any sort of incline. But I think that kind of heightened it a little bit, that like there was that raw passion and they did not give two fucks that this thing was so uncomfortable. And that's just not something that we get to see big dark-skinned women get. William is by no means my type, but I thought that was interesting.
Right. Yeah, I just thought it was I think you do bring up a good point in the fact that, I mean, I've seen plenty of sex scenes where people have sex on the scene, because Shannon Houston, who's one of the writers producers of Lovecraft Country, did point out the fact that the episode is called A History of Violence, and that sex scene was actually an homage to the movie A History of Violence with Viggo Mortensen.
Oh, wow.
I forget the name of the actress who played his wife, where they had sex on the stairs, right? And so I was just like, I don't remember people complaining about that sex scene when A History of Violence came out. But I think it's to your point, Shannon, in the fact of how we see bodies that look like Rubies. Women who look like Ruby, they're not usually the object of urgent, passionate desire. You know what I mean? It's like they're usually desexualized, they're mammified. You know what I mean? And if I remember correctly, the episode just before that, Letitia had lost her virginity having sex in a bathroom with Atticus, and I didn't see anybody complaining about that.
God,
so I just thought that they were
just imagine the corona in the bathroom.
Like, what the hell? I was just like, okay, so y'all didn't. And if you look at Letitia, like, so the first time Letitia has sex with Atticus, she has sex with him in a bathroom. And then the second time they have sex in his uncle's garage. Like, they start making out on the car. And they move to the car, and it's a very passionate scene. So I really actually thought it was actually quite interesting to see these two sisters who look very different, but are engaging in like their own sexual agency. You know what I mean? And I mean, I caught that part where I think Ruby had cut her finger, I think when they were kissing, and she cut her finger, her hand on a vase that had broken or whatever. And then William just kind of looked at the blood and then he just sucked it. And I was just like, I was like, I was like, I was like, wow. I mean, I feel like the last time I saw something like that, like that's something that's very much in tune with True Blood. We saw a lot of that kind of kinky blood play, you know, with Sookie and William, but it's never us. Like, women who look like us are never the object of that. And I was just sort of like, I don't have a problem with, you know, plus size or fat Black women engaging in some kink. Like, we don't always have to have romantic vanilla sex. We don't necessarily have to have it all the time. So anyway, that happens. And then when we start with episode 5, we see this white woman who wakes up in a bed and we realize that the white woman is Ruby. And so I thought it was very interesting. Like, what I thought was interesting, and I think I'd be very curious. I wanted to get you guys' thoughts, but also the writers, if they ever talk about it. It's nothing, no disrespect to the white actress who plays White Ruby, but I thought it was very interesting that they found like a very rather basic looking white actress, like at least the way they made her look on the show. Like, she's not anyone that you would just be like, oh my gosh, she's so gorgeous. You know what I mean? Like, she's got the very thin lips.
I think that's the point, though, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think that's the point, that a lot of these white women don't be remarkable. But they don't. Whoever listening, they do not. Capital D, do not. They don't be more remarkable looking. They're not that smart, not that athletic. Like, there's nothing remarkably special or unique about them. But by virtue of being white, you know, by virtue of whiteness, but also by virtue of being the trophy of whiteness for white men, you know, they get to kind of coast on that. You know, and they don't have to be, you know, that good looking or special or whatever. So I actually am impressed that they picked, like, again, no insulting the actress. She seems delightful, but I think it was intentional. I think it was intentional that they picked someone basic, like, in comparison to someone like Ruby. You know, I think that was,
right.
I like that. I like that they did that. I like that they did that.
Yeah, I do too, because Wunmi Mosaku is like gorgeous. Like, every time she comes on screen, I'm like, oh my God, this woman exists. Crazy. But like the way that she was able to move and was so easily accepted. I mean, particularly if we're gonna like get into the meat of the episode, when she goes in for her interview as a white woman, like, and we've all been there, of like, here are all of my credentials, here's all my hard work, and you're still being questioned, and you're still being like called out your name and being told like you don't have enough experience, for her to waltz in there and then be like, guys, like, man, you could take my job as a white woman now, when you couldn't even get your foot in the door as a Black woman. Like, it was astounding to sort of watch her even just be at ease on the park bench afterwards, reading her paper, like just unbothered. And there's like this thought of like, man, like, what if no one bothered me and I could literally do whatever I wanted?
And that's like so key in what we as Black women are always saying that we want, like pie in the sky. what would our existence look like if, as Christina says towards the end of the episode, if we could do whatever the fuck we want? And honestly, we just want to be left alone. Like,
Yeah.
we don't, like, of course, you know, we have our dreams, we have our goals, we have the, you know, our sort of fantasies, but that piece of being able to just enjoy your ice cream on a bench and read your newspaper in total peace, that for us is a dream. And that's why this world is so sick, because that is such a simple thing. And then you have that scene in particular kind of hit different the second time I watched it, because I was so enthralled in what was happening that I didn't pick up on the little things like the spoken word, the four color girls who have considered suicide playing in the background. And
Yes.
there's that moment where they have, like, you know, sing the song of her possibilities, sing a righteous gospel, let her be born born and handled warmly. And it's like, the lengths she had to go to get that kind of treatment. She literally had to turn into a white woman to just enjoy the sun and her fucking ice cream. Her free ice cream, mind you, because she left that huge wad of money on the dresser because she said she didn't need it. All she needed was the currency of her whiteness. That
brought it down.
I mean, like, it's just kind of, you see all these details culminate in this really sad truth about what it means to be a Black woman. And sort of circling back to Hillary, it took me forever to remember what the fact that they named her Hillary also.
Hilarious. Hilarious.
Because no offense to Hillarys I have not met, but the ones I have not liked. So
Ditto. If somebody annoying, nasally, ain't no, like, leave me alone, Hillary.
Like, Hillary almost got the Karen treatment, but Karen just got there first. But if we ever get to evolve out of this, the next evolving white woman will probably be named Hillary. So, like, for her to be named Hillary, and like you said, she's like, first of all, I can't even remember the actress's name. I know her last name is Newman. I want to say her name is like Julie Newman. Or no, Jamie Newman. My bad. But like, when you see her out just
Yes, Jamie Newman. Yes.
Yeah, she's a very beautiful woman. So what they did with her in the show, they made her kind of look older. And like you said, they kind of planed her down a lot. And she was still the most powerful bitch in town, because hello, that's whiteness. That's what it means to be a white woman. There's just a lot of details that they interwove in this to really talk about that disparity between Ruby and Hillary that I thought were brilliant. It'll be interesting to see what other people say, but I thought that was kind of brilliantly done how they did that.
Yeah. I was thinking about the scene where, you know, the first time when she wakes up as a white woman and she runs out into the street. So she actually runs back to her neighborhood. So she's this white woman in a robe running down the street looking hysterical, like she's just escaped an asylum or something. And just the treatment that she got, like this young Black man boy was trying to help her. And I don't even know where those cops came from. It was just like, they just swooped down on him and threw him on the car, threw him on the hood of the car. And you know what I'm saying? And she was like, and then she had to intercede and was like, no, he's not doing. I was just like, where did these cops come from? Like, who called them? Like,
they
where?
Spawned,
you know,
they spawned like when the monsters spawned. They're like, oh my God, it's a Black child talking to a white woman. We gotta save her. We have to.
Yes.
Eating popcorn,
yes. So
mind you.
Yes, right. And of course, that was like shades of Emmett Till, right? Because just the episode, I think it was 2 episodes before, that's when they had revealed that that seance scene, the Ouija board scene with the Black kids at the party. One of those children was indeed Emmett Till. And I think he had asked the Ouija board, am I gonna have fun on my vacation? And it was like, no.
Oh God.
And that kept me up for nights afterwards. So just seeing that scene again of that young boy, Black boy, being, you know, manhandled or just assaulted by the cops was definitely like another shade of that. But what was interesting to me was that so she starts changing back into Ruby, right? Because, William takes her in and you see that he has plastic on the floor and he's got like these kitchen gloves. And I'm like, okay, this can't be good. What's going on here? Like, I kind of had an idea of what was going on. And then basically, like, he lays her on the floor and he has like this huge butcher knife and then he just, stabs it in her chest and like pulls the white off of her, basically, you know what I mean? Literally.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a conversation that they had after, which was really interesting to me because when she was kind of trying to explain to William what the experience was like, or I guess he was asking her questions, and he was like, well, I know you're confused because I know it must have been painful. She was like, no. She was like, it was more than pain. It was like I was being unmade. Like, I was like, that was such an interesting choice of words, right? But then when I really started to think about it, I think that they were intentional with that word because remember, when we talk about feminism, right? White women are always telling Black women and women of color, like, oh, we're all the same. We have the same shared experience and everything. But no, a metaphor, like for a Black woman like Ruby to change into a white woman, it's not presto changeo. I actually appreciate the body horror aspect of her transforming because I think if it was like a pretty transformation, I think that would have been more problematic to me.
It was necessary.
Yeah. I think the thing I love about this show is that it plays with violence beyond the typical, monster gore setup, right? So I love, Rebecca, that you brought the word unmade. Because she's not saying, oh, I felt different, I felt weird. No, she says unmade, like she literally was, it's violent. The word is violent. It implies a violence that was done to her in her psyche, and that, she's literally, not just in body, but her insides, her mind, her spirit, everything that's ever known Blackness is literally being unmade to make room for, now her being white. It goes beyond the physical transformation aspect. Every fiber of her is going to have to change to now accommodate whiteness on a internal level.
Well, let's even go. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead. Yeah.
If we travel back to episode 3, which is the first time we're in Hiram's haunted mansion, she's sitting around a table like during the party talking to a group of people, and she says something to the effect, and I'm definitely paraphrasing, of if Black people worked as hard as me, our race would be much further, right? And that moment sticks out for me for her because this is a woman who's clearly like on a path, right? Like she's doing the work, she's working all of the time, many jobs, supporting her family, very much in that like eldest sister of a Black family's headspace, right? But she still believes that like the promise is coming, which is crazy to me. At her big age, I was like, girl, you have to know that there's no amount of hard work you could do that could make people forget that you're Black,
right?
And negate that. And so to see her get that education firsthand by sort of getting that wish of being able to fit in and like walk into the Marshall Fields and be seen and do all of these things, to watch her be unmade in that way, or not even to be unmade, let's not use that word, to watch her learn and figure out like how the cards are dealt, right? And how she's been played this entire time. It was like a painful but necessary lesson, and an interesting way to show that, because I think a lot of professional Black women or Black women who've grown up with affluence believe this, or hold that ideal of if you just work hard and do what you're supposed to, then eventually the opportunities will present themselves. And that's just not always going to be the case.
Right. And I think with the body horror in particular, it did such a good job of illustrating what it means to briefly have that proximity to whiteness, and what it means to have that literally stripped away. Because when she morphs out of that white body, it's not pretty. It's like you said, it's not presto changeo. It's not, very like sparkly, not sparkly special effects that, oh, now I'm Ruby again. Dear me. It's gritty. It's ugly. It's violent. And that's what happens when you're stripped away from that safety. Yeah. Like it's not just a matter of like, oh, we don't mess with you anymore. It's you lose opportunities. You can lose your livelihood. You could be harassed, doxxed, accosted. But it's never just oh, you're in and now you're out. Not when you're Black, especially not when you're a Black woman. It's this horrific thing that happens when your otherness is weaponized against you. So I don't like gore normally. I loved it here because it's accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And especially I think someone like Ruby, because I love Ruby. She's easily my favorite character of the bunch. She reminds me of Uncle George in a way, in a lot of ways, where like she's Black as fuck. She is happy to be Black. She's proud to be Black, but she did a little bit adapt to that buy your bootstraps mentality of like you said, if you work as hard as me, we will get there. And as Joelle said, like, no, girl, that's not how that works. So it was interesting to see her in particular learn that lesson in this really gruesome way. It took me a while to like actually watch it, but
well, you know what's interesting? Like I just thought about as you were speaking, Shannon, I was just thinking about the fact that when we see the transformation scenes, we only see her transform from Hillary to Ruby. We never see that. We never actually see what happens when she takes the potion to turn into a white woman. And I think I'm wondering if maybe perhaps there's something there, because as violent as those transformations are when she's turning from a white woman back to Ruby, the destruction and the violence is actually on the white female body. It is never really on Ruby's. We never really see Ruby's body. I'm wondering if there's an intention in that.
Well, I think if we look at the butterfly metaphor, the idea is that like she's being wrapped in this cocoon of whiteness, right? Because she doesn't change on the inside at all. And so my thought process of this is slowly overnight, this like white skin or crawls over her and she's housed in this thing. But then in order to become her true self, she has to literally bust out of that cocoon and back into her like butterfly free self. That was the like specifically again with that last transformation, because it goes from being like, it's very gory the whole way through, and it's still gory at the end, but there's something almost beautiful about her making the choice to be herself. And part of it
yes, that's true.
A very determined stance to stand up for a woman that she once resented for having the position and the access she wanted. And of course, she learns that position and access came with a lot. It's not something that woman earned. It's not something she even really wanted. And it came at the cost of sexual assault and with a whole bunch of coworkers who just violently hated her and were not afraid to show that. So she's diminished in a lot of ways. And there's all of the things that looked like a gift to Ruby were kind of a curse for that poor woman. She's just trying to live her life and get a job. And
right.
She came with all of this extra baggage that she didn't deserve. So for Ruby to then like step into her own like Blackness and to like side with sisterhood and be like, I'm gonna shove this heel all the way up your ass. I was like literally putting her foot in it. Like Blackness in that moment, a lot of like subtle things that like are indicative strictly to the Black female community. And it was lovely, as horrific as it was.
Yeah. I was thinking about, and the thing is, in her, when she gets the job as Hillary, and it was impressed upon me. Like I'm pretty sure that when she went to interview for that job at Marshall Fields, I'm pretty sure that was Ruby's resume. She probably used the same exact resume, but she was not only was she able to get the job as a white woman, she got a promotion. They didn't even start her out as a sales girl. Yeah. She became assistant manager, just like that. And I was like, okay. Yeah. And so I wanted to talk to you guys about she had a couple of interactions with the Black sales girl who was hired at Marshall Fields, right? So the first one, that was when she, she's on the sales floor and she's asking her how she's doing. And she starts asking these questions. And she was just like, well, I know that you said that you had, interviewed for this job on a whim, blah, blah, blah. And then she was like, oh, well, you must have been qualified, right? Because like you said, Ruby's on this, respectability juice. And the girl was like, well, for somebody who hadn't even finished 8th grade. I'm shocked that I'm working here. So Ruby's like, wait, you didn't even, well, Hillary is like, you didn't even finish high school? Like, we come to find out that this girl, bless her heart, is not even qualified. Like, she didn't even have the qualifications to even be a salesperson here. And I think what was especially brilliant about that scene was that not only was this girl, she was Black, she was dark skinned just like Ruby. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, so what's the difference here? She was thin. So then not only are we talking about colorism, we're talking about sizeism, which was fascinating to me. You know what I mean? And maybe there might be some, yeah, and there might be some ageism. I wanted to start with you, Clarkisha. What did you think about that?
Like the scene that you just described.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, yes. I love when shows even subtly or maybe unsubtly decide to address fatphobia, because it is just like colorism, just like also ableism, kind of interwoven into everything. So when she mentioned that just the entire lack of qualifications, but still kind of being here to have the job, obviously my brain immediately goes to the whole the twice as good thing, but I don't think people register how that twice as good thing gets magnified when you're in a larger body. Because I y'all have probably seen my tweets where I'm talking about just how shitty plus size clothing is. It's just terrible. I just want to be a bad bitch. I just want to show my ass, show a little titty, just a little bit, respectfully, tastefully, and just the ugly ass shit they try to make us wear. Like, I don't want to wear grandma's couch. Okay, I want some leather booty shorts. That's what I want. And we don't get that. I have to go out and, cut something up or, thrift shop. I have to go out of my way to look remotely normal even. So I'm mentioning this because there's certain things that obviously get projected on fatter bodies in comparison to skinnier bodies. A skinny person can throw on a sack, a potato sack, and they're going to still be called stylish, right? If I put on a potato sack, if one of us put on a potato sack, somebody's going to call us what? Dirty, sloppy, lazy. Like, the insults start rolling in. So I thought it was interesting that they kind of subtly highlighted just how much even more extra work that a larger person has to do to not only be deemed for neat looking or respectable, but also worthy of respect, period. Like, just worthy of being treated like a normal person. Talk less of a job, getting a job, getting housing, getting whatever the fuck else. So I thought that was an interesting scene to include, because we don't talk about that a lot, especially in regards to Blackness, even though fatphobia is rooted in anti-Blackness. But anyways, I'm gonna get off my soapbox.
Okay. So Shannon and Joelle, what did you think of that scene, or what did you pick up from that scene?
I thought it was very telling how quickly Ruby was ready to assimilate with it, and like Joelle very brilliantly pointed out, they set that up in the previous episode. Yeah, where she was saying, like, it's essentially a rat race. There can only be one. Highlander rules for Black people always. They're never going to let two of us in here. And rather than fight that, she immediately took to. I mean, I'm thinking of her interaction with, oh God, what was it? Tamra? I think her name was Tamra.
Yes.
I'm thinking of her interactions with Tamra and how quickly it turned shady. Because she pulled out that lotion and told her hands were ashy real quick. Which was a mind fuck for me to see Hillary say, "Oh, your hands are ashy." I was like, "Oh no, I don't think you can. I still don't think you get to say that, girl."
Yeah, I thought Tamara checked like, "Wait, what? How did you know the word ashy? What's going on here?
How dare you?"
Oh, very confused.
It was very confused, and it took me a second. I had to remember. Oh yeah, Ruby's in there. I forgot. But like, I'm also thinking of how she goes down to the basement right after, and she's like kikiing and cutting up with them white girls. Like, it's like nothing to her. It was so easy because the minute that they started talking shit about her, and they said, I really hope they don't let any other Tamras in the door, and she, without skipping a beat, was like, let's hope that the next one is qualified. And it really, that Highlander mentality is so seductive and so easy to slip into once you are quote unquote on the inside, that you really have to check that.
Well, I think it's like such a brilliant call out to white women in general, like this idea of showcasing what safety looks like to them and really trying to like force, like, to me that's the one thing that maybe wasn't for us, right? Like not the scene with Tamara. The scene with Tamara was all about like her world ideal is crumbling. Like she can't take the fact that she had worked hard and did everything she needed to do, and this woman got there instead. And she also can't take the idea that this girl doesn't really understand the privilege that she's been given, right? I think that really disturbs Ruby. But watching her go back and like experience the ease of being white and the comfort and the like, they're just like, oh well, we'll just get back to the floor whenever, because who's gonna come reprimand them? You can never get away with that crap if you were black. Like
never.
Today, don't be caught sitting down. You're gonna get a whole
right.
Oh,
wearing the coat, juking, just not even trying to like get to work on time. And she just like with all the ease in the world, just catwalking and swinging her hips, and there wasn't like, it wasn't until she said that little bit about Tamra, and then the girl came back, well, of course she's not qualified, she's a Negro, and that's what it took to knock her back down. It's so, I just that was such a wild scene to me, because it's like, you love Ruby, you want the absolute best for Ruby, and in our mind's eye, I imagine Ruby fighting the fuck out of that. But even Ruby is not impervious to.
That's a relief, though, right? Like for a moment, she just got to dance and hang out and, like, as you said, just kiki with the girls for a minute. And so, like, I do want to like hold her accountable and be like, "Damn, girl, like that's your sis out there, and whether you believe she's qualified or not, like you can be doing so much more to like help her be comfortable, especially because you come in here not just as a white woman, but as a white woman in a position of power over these women." Do the ability to do something about this woman's situation. But on the other hand, I get being tired as hell, and Ruby hasn't had a break, period. So,
exactly, in years. In years. Yeah. Like I was saying, like I think that it's. I mean, yeah, of course it's shitty, but at the same time, it's like it's that. I think that's such a not a. I don't want to say it's universally felt, but like you said, like if you've been tired for so long and you get that taste of just some form of freedom. Can we all say that we would be the ones crusading and fixing everything right away for that little bit of moment? We want to dance and cut the fuck up too. So it was really something. I felt bad laughing, but I did not.
I did not. The episode was messy as fuck, and I was right there along with you. Yes. Oh, she talking shit. Oh shit. Well, I know. I think I like the episode. It holds up a mirror, to a lot of these are unspoken, feelings about navigating as specifically Black women. That's why I'm plugged into them. So specifically Black women. Well, they gave us the whole bit, the messy bit. Like Shannon mentioned, she doesn't go straight into becoming the white woman ally or like the Jane Fonda. Like she wants to just be, and I feel like it holds up a mirror to us in that we're always kind of as Black women expected to be morally good, the highest moral good. That's what people expect of us, the highest like I don't, well, they do call us superheroes because they're corny, but like literally they hold us up to be like the highest like God themselves, like like we are the final authority. So obviously when we fall short of people's expectations, like in that way, that's when they swarm. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was holding up an interesting mirror to the
Mm.
fact that Ruby does not immediately go into let me save everybody mode. She's just like, no,
Right.
I just want to, like Shannon mentioned, kick it. I just want to relax. I'm even gonna talk shit with y'all because she's not worried again in that split second where she kind of assimilates. She's not worried about again being the highest moral authority, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was a really interesting mirror that the show was holding up about our inner
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, jumping off that idea is like we haven't seen a single person come to Ruby's rescue,
Yes.
and she's
Yep.
needed both.
Woo!
Yes.
And not
Wow.
one person has been there for her.
Wow.
Yes. Period.
Which would probably kind of explain the connection that she has to William, because William's really like so far the only person that is offering her anything that is of value to her. You know what I mean? Because she's usually, like you said, the older sister, the caretaker, and then here's this guy that's like, I'm giving you something. But the thing about Ruby is that she's not stupid, because after the first transformation and she's in the bubble bath, washing off the whiteness, so to speak, and she was just looking at William like, yeah, I know I'm not special enough. Like, you're giving me all of this, access and currency and everything, but I'm not stupid. You're going to want something from me. And he was like, yeah, it's just a little favor. And she was like, mm-hmm. That black woman, like, yeah. And right off of that
Sure.
scene, and what's interesting is right after that scene where she's cutting up with the white female coworkers, they're leaving work, right? You see Tamara kind of go off. She's kind of segregated from the white female coworkers. And then, William is sitting outside. I mean, I have to say he was looking kind of cute. Leaning against this convertible car.
Kind of.
You know what I'm saying? And the white female, yeah, and they're like, damn, that's your man. And she was like, eh. And two interesting things. Number one, when he came up to kiss her, she kind of moved her lips where he kissed her on the cheek. And she was like, and he was sort of like, you don't feel comfortable with me kissing you as a white woman. And you know what I mean? So I thought that was interesting that she would not let William be openly affectionate with her in this white skin. And then the other thing that happens is like hyping her up. And he was like, oh, I've got a surprise for you. And then she was like, oh, is this the favor? And then he gives her like this gift box, and it's a fucking maid's uniform. And I was like, and here we go. And here we go. And I was just like, to me, that was like so symbolic of the relationship. It is, but isn't it like symbolic of the way that Black women are treated as white? Sometimes in white spaces, they kind of make you feel special until they need something from you, right?
Ooh.
And then it's like, yeah, here you go. Here's this domestic uniform.
And
like,
not just a domestic uniform to serve regular people, but to serve the police. Like this idea of not am I just going to take you from your literal dream in this white skin, right? This is all she's talked about since we've met her, is being a counter girl at Marshall Fields. So he's sending her right back down to where she did not want to be, put her right in harm's way, not just with cops, but with cops who are clearly stealing brown body parts to somehow fit like the aesthetic of brown sexuality without losing their white privilege, aka their white heads. Like it's the layers of like, not do you just have to subjugate yourself, but you must also put your life in danger in order to continue to have this access. It's like there's just no peace for Ruby, and I hate it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like that scene where she's hiding in the closet, because I think the favor being, well, Christina shows up and gives her some sort of rock or stone or whatever. It was like, I need you to put it in the police chief's office, and Ruby's like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And so she has to hide in the closet because she hears the police chief coming into the room, and it's like this guy who's in the closet. I don't even know what the hell happened to him. It looked like he was cut up. He had stitches. He didn't even have a tongue. So is this double horror of her having to hide in the closet with this man who's been chopped up. I don't even know what they did to him. And then, like you said, Joelle, when you see the police chief take off his shirt, he has a white face, but his chest, his torso is that of a Black man. What kind of Frankenstein shit was that? I don't even know what that was.
Hiram,
and I definitely got shades of Get Out with that.
Yeah, this is from Hiram's house, I think. From like underground, we saw those chopped up people in episode 3, right? And the idea is we were trying to figure out like what was being done to them. And from what we could see in that scene, it looked like Hiram was essentially playing Frankenstein and mixing up body parts. But here it seems like maybe he was like, and my guess is this is going to head into the ideology that like Black people have superior physical beings, or like, you know, more physicality, they're stronger, quote unquote, all of these things. And I think the idea is to then give these quote unquote stronger bodies to these white police chief captain, I forget what his title was, which is deeply disturbing. And I'm wondering, I don't know for sure yet, I'm wondering if that's Hiram in the closet, if they've kept the doctor who initially started all of these things. We see them exercise somebody in the basement. I don't know if that's Hiram for sure or not.
Yeah, that could be it. Yeah, because I remember they said something about they needed information from him and that eventually he'll talk or something. Something they needed a location or something.
And remember, the white doctor they exercise in the circle turns into a black doctor.
Ooh.
At the end. And
excuse me?
I'm wondering if they forced this thing on him as well. Like, I don't. That is
okay. I gotta
go back
and watch
to
that.
episode 3.
Me too. I was like, you're so right, but I have to now watch it again to make sure my brain is registering correctly.
Yeah. But you know, the thing that's so interesting about that scene is that as horrific, it seems that to me, at least, I feel like that was the turning point for Ruby. I think that is when she decided to reject her whiteness after having to experience all of that shit at that party and what she saw in the closet, because the next scene, that's when we see her confront Tamara again the next day. She snaps at Tamara, telling her, you know, you're not supposed to put the shoes in this display. You're supposed to put it here with the monochromatics. And then she just flips on her. So you have this white woman who's just like flipping on her, talking about you've got to be twice as good and you've got to do this, because she was like, these white people are fucking crazy. I'm trying not to laugh, but it was like, but I think that was what really snapped Ruby out of, I don't know, I don't want to say that she really wanted to be white, but I think that's when she had to literally see the other side. And I think that is when she categorically denied, was like, I don't want no parts of this anymore. This is not for me or whatever. And then that kind of goes into the coworkers later that night. The white coworkers decide, they ask Tamara to bring them to a Black club or like a bar, and you kind of see like the white female coworkers, you know, with their jungle fever, they're looking at the Black men there. And what's interesting is that there's this quick scene where Tamara and Hillary are sitting next to each other, but they have the same disgusted look on their faces. They're just looking at these white people taking up space, right, in places where they find comfort, and now they're taking over, and they had the same look, like, I can't even believe this shit.
Right.
Which was interesting. But I did want to talk to you guys about that final, well, what happens in the alley, right? So everybody's dancing. The white manager asked Ruby to dance, and she was like, I'll be right back. And then we see Ruby in the alley with the potion, and she breaks the bottle and deliberately lets herself turn back into Ruby. So what were your feelings of that scene?
I think the idea, for me anyway, it hit sort of like a couple of points, which were essentially like, I don't want to be a part of people that would do these things, right? Like, I don't want to be like, there's no amount of sacrificing my Blackness and my, like, the visible outside Blackness of me to be a part of something like that. And then for it to then go into the assault of Tamara, I think she sort of sees like this job no matter what, like, because I think then you get too into the idea of like, well, what if maybe I was like Tamara then? If I didn't have to study, I could just be pretty and people would accept me. But the other side of that is that then you're just used for your looks, which oftentimes, especially for men, leads to this idea of you owe me sex because you're pretty and I was nice to you, nice enough to give you a job, so you owe me, right? And so like, I feel like she's like, there's no safe space in here. It's not safe even for the white women. It's not safe for me. It's not safe for the girls that are pretty. It's not safe if you're thinner. It's not safe if you have more money. It's not a good space to be in. And when she could just be fabulous, amazing Ruby, who is gorgeous and sings everybody down and collects people in a way that is hilarious and snappy. Like, she's just like this. I feel like Ruby discovered herself and all the reasons that the four of us love Ruby and are drawn to this character, I feel like in a very short time, those things become appealing to her and she chooses to live in that skin, in that, headspace.
Mm-hmm. 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 So then that leads us into the scene where she where she goes back to work the next day. So as Hillary, she tenders her resignation. I guess that was sort of like the final thing where she's like, I'm done with this. And yeah, shit happens. So she sort of starts to seduce the manager. She was like, she basically like, oh, I'm quitting because I'm so attracted to you. And then she kind of takes his belt and then ties his hands with it. And then she, takes off her panties and then she stuffs it in his mouth. And I was like, I'm not sure where we're going with this scene. What are you doing, Ruby? But even before that, the conversation, I did want to talk about that conversation when Ruby comes home from the alley and she's talking to Christina. And Christina comes in and she was like, oh, it looks like Ruby was interrupted again. And then, Christina starts on this whole, oh, as a woman, I know how hard. And then Ruby just shuts her down. She was like, girl, no.
She said, shut the
She was like, you
up.
have no idea who I loved that scene.
That was such a cathartic moment. How many times have we tweeted something? I know because the four of us are online. How many times have we tweeted something in our experience and said, this is, pain caused directly by white people. And then some white woman quote tweets it and then decides to correct us and say, oh, it's only white men. No. No.
It's y'all too.
I said what I said. Yeah. I know what I know.
Yes.
And I've lived how I've lived. You shut the fuck up.
Why are you Black people's business?
Yeah. And just, get the hell out of Black people's business for a second. Fix your thing. So to have her really square up with Christina and say, you don't know what it's like to be me. And it's like our experiences share very, very few similarities. You will always have the leg up, essentially. It was just nice for her to have that face-to-face moment, because we don't really get that online. We have to endure all of that bullshit first, and then we have to kind of clap back and deal with whatever. But that was probably my favorite moment of the episode.
As a recapper and a reviewer, knowing there are lots of white people out here recapping and reviewing this show and missing a lot of points, I really felt this was a key and very important factor to let them know, this show is not about comparing the experiences of women. Because there was a point where I was concerned that that's where it might go. To be like, all women have to struggle against white men and it's awful. And it was like they crafted this scene and plopped it right in the middle to be like, just so you know, that's not the case. Not what we're doing here. Not at all what we're talking about. Christina is definitely still part of the problem because Christina goes around deceiving people. And maybe and there's a lot of reasons for Christina to be the way she is. I mean, look at where the hell she grew up. Look at the time period she's in. Look at the privilege she has and the access that she has. But this idea of her constantly being like, oh, well, I'm going to get one up over my demons by deceiving, hurting, threatening a bunch of Black people so that she can uplift herself. Very white devil of you, lady. Don't trust Christina at all.
I'm trying not to laugh. Oh my god. Yeah, she's a trip. She's a trip. Yeah, I really appreciated that scene because the thing is, that's what I was looking for. While I was watching that episode, I was kind of holding my breath. I was like, okay, in my head, I was like, okay, if this is the premise that you guys are going with, in my head, I was like, there has to be a final conclusion. In my head, there were these certain points that they had to hit. And I was like, if they missed it, this episode could go left real quick. You know what I mean? So I think that was really quickly. Yeah. And I think her having to confront Christina with that was absolutely necessary. And so that leads us to the scene where she kind of seduces the manager and then she starts transforming I think her eyes turn brown. That's the first thing he notices. He was like, wait, your eyes aren't blue anymore. They're turning brown. She's like, don't you like them or whatever? And then she just throws them on his stomach. Oh Lord. And then she takes the heel. And I just remembered that those were the very same shoes that her white female coworkers had given her when they were cutting up.
Yeah.
Remember that? They were like,
Mhm.
oh, don't you want to try on these nice stilettos or whatever? And so she takes the shoe and good Lord. I was just, I'll let you guys tackle that one because I'm still in shock over that scene. Still in shock. Like, damn. All right. This is what we doing? Okay.
It was
But
something.
I mean, the one thing that I did want to comment real quick before you guys give your opinion, I think the thing that I loved about that scene, is that it was unbridled Black female rage on a white male body. I'm really trying to rack my brain as to an equivalent of a scene like that, and I'm coming up short. I'm sure there might be some, but I know that that's in a way it's almost verboten in Hollywood where Black characters don't get to while out on white bodies like that. But I just wanted to get your guys' take on that scene.
I'd have to go back and look at some blaxploitation films and see if there's ever a moment like where maybe in Coffee, I'm trying to recall. It's been so long since I've seen that movie, but I have a feeling that that's probably where we would find a similar scene. Is 70s blaxploitation films, no Hollywood studios involved, so pre like Shaft era stuff. This scene was really hard for me. I think any scenes of sexual assault can be a challenge, even if they're done in quote unquote righteous ways. But there's something about Ruby taking a position of power, using her white form as a way of getting one over on this guy who's clearly so disgusting, who also no one's ever going to see as the bad guy, right? Like the girls, they're like, sexually assault us? What are you talking? The white women were flabbergasted at the mere mention, but Ruby picked up on it. She knew what was happening, right? There wasn't going to be justice any other way. Like, not that Ruby could get, the cops are clearly not there for her or her people. This was a way for her to use the power she had been given, the power that made her clearly feel kind of dirty and illuminated her to a lot of different things. Her worldview has changed entirely in the past, this is maybe 72 hours. And again, there's no one there for Ruby ever to support her, to help her get through these hard times. Sometimes violence is necessary. It's not a comfortable thing for me to say, but it's a reality in which I've become accustomed to. Sometimes violence is necessary. And I really enjoyed watching Ruby take her violence out on this man who had undone her coworker, and would probably likely use his power to harm more women, specifically Black women, in the future. I bet he'll think twice about it now.
Yeah, and we'll never receive any sort of consequence.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I just want to piggyback off Joelle. Like I think the show is good at illustrating that there are certain people in certain situations where the language they speak is only violence. That's just what it is. You know, that's just what it is, and sometimes that's how you have to reply because that's how they understand. So I feel like while assault is very, I think that scene could have went left if it wasn't handled how it was handled. But I feel like that was the way to do it. That was the only way that she could get across to this very violent, very disgusting, but very powerful white man that no, you can't just go around harming and assaulting people and expect there to be no consequence. And I think the form that it takes it fits. It just fits. I'm not gonna say it's appropriate, but it fits the story that they've been telling the entire episode. I think the trajectory fits.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's definitely like everyone said, like a difficult line to walk. I think they tried their best. At least previously, obviously he didn't give consent to shoving her stiletto up his ass, but he, is consenting to some sort of activity. I think they tried their best to at least show that. But when you kind of consider the alternatives, what are the alternatives for somebody like Ruby? Is she going to call the police? Is she going to go to HR? Is she what is she going to do? Is she going to walk away? Because that would have been a problem too. Like if she'd walked away and just, as everyone loves to say, took the higher road. I mean, we just said goodbye to what, 8 seasons of Game of Thrones, where I choose violence was probably like one of the top 5 lines.
It's
Like,
true.
I mean, like it's
Hello.
not pretty. It's not pretty. It's not ideal. Yeah, and it does, of course, the implications of like assault are going to make me uncomfortable, but so is fucking racism and misogynoir. Like I'm uncomfortable every day. So it's you have to kind of make some concessions there.
Yep.
I wouldn't be upset with anyone that was like, that made me uncomfortable. No, you have absolutely every right to feel that way. But we also just have to consider what Ruby's options were. And for her to have that final line of like, I want you to know that an N-word bitch did this. Like, what can you do? What can you do at that moment? It's a lot have built up to that moment.
Well, I also think if we look at Black art, a lot of times we use our platforms and spaces for revenge we can never get, or for justice we can never get. And if we think of the number of white men who've assaulted, raped Black women over the centuries without consequence, without batting an eye, like it was casual behavior, remains in some spaces casual behavior. If I look at it as art in that sense, it's much more palatable because we know the harm that's been caused, because many of us are products of the harm that has been caused. Right. And I think there's something really liberating about Ruby's story in seeing her not just take action, but like take back all of her own life. Like she to get your dream and find it soured and still rise after that it's a challenge. Like it's really hard. Like Ruby has to now go out into the world and dream up a whole new dream for herself.
Right.
Because everything she knew before is gone.
Yeah.
And if her dream for herself now is retribution, like power to you, sister. Like I hope you get it. I really want to see Ruby just be a badass for the rest of the series. I don't think any of us has seen beyond episode 5. And I now have such a thirst and a hunger to see Ruby play quote unquote the bad guy, but really be the liberator. I want her to be the Batman of this story. Out here knocking heads, avenging people, and doing it just strictly for her benefit, strictly for her own satisfaction.
Especially after that twist at the end.
I was already laid the fuck out from the scene with Ruby and the white manager, and I was like, oh, and you saw what I've noticed that I have noticed that there were people who have already put 2 and 2 together online and in message boards or whatever. I'm slow. When I watched episodes 1 through 5, I was as shocked as anybody else. But other people who are much smarter than me were like, yeah, you've never seen Christina and William in the same room together. But yeah, that was a nice little surprise, because now that I'm thinking about it, it totally changes the dynamic between William and Ruby. Well, just going back to their first sex scene, because now it's like, what kind of queerness is this? Because it was like this wasn't just your typical interracial Black woman, white man. This is a Black woman with a white man who's really a white woman. So then there's questions about Christina's sexuality, right? Like I remember watching episode 2 with my boyfriend, and this was the scene where they had just come to Artem, right? And then that's when they came dressed down for lunch, and this was when Letty came out, and she was wearing that really nice equestrian outfit.
She was.
And And my boyfriend was like, do you notice? He was like, do you notice the way that William is looking at Letty? And I was like, what are you talking about? And then he kind of paused it. And this was when he kind of pulled out the chair for her to sit down. He was looking at her like she was a whole ass snack. And I was like, nah. Oh, I was like, well, maybe he thinks. So now seeing everything together, now I'm just wondering about Christina's sexuality.
Well, I'm also
is she queer? Is she? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, like, and how much separation is there between Christina and William? Like, they are obviously sharing a body and space, but like, if we think about a metamorphosis and the fact that this is happening time and time again, and the fact that Christina so easily refers to William and his desires as being different from hers, and the way Christina definitely treats Ruby much differently than William does. Like, there's not that same level of affection and attention to her. So I'm curious to see if William is starting to become his own individual person away from who this individual is as Christina. They seem like
I didn't think of that.
No, that's a great point, Joelle, because I do agree with that, because I do feel that the scenes with William and Ruby, William has a certain sweetness on her or a tenderness with her that Christina does not have that same thing with Ruby. Like, it's more adversarial, at least in my opinion. But I could kind of see that. That's interesting.
Well, then my other question is, Christina / William gives Ruby the ability to become a white woman, but not a white man, which doesn't seem out of the realm of possibilities. And
so they're not equals.
Exactly.
So they're not equals on any plane. So they're not equals.
Wow.
Damn, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, so they are not equals.
And is that why William can be more affectionate with Ruby? Is because he has more power over Ruby than Christina does.
He's still in control. He's giving her, an inch, right? An inch to make her feel safe and secure. But he's still in control,
That's a good point. That is very much, damn, now I gotta go back and watch episode 5 again. Like, oh shit. No, this is true. And just even the reveal that William and Christina, and that talks about the power dynamic to me, about how when white women talk about equal rights and gender equality, I do feel that sometimes with white women, it's not even that they're trying to revolutionize or radicalize gender inequality. I really think it's just about being approximate to white male power.
Yes.
I just feel like they just want that space. They're not really trying to change the dynamic at all. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to watch that again. Yeah. So it's gonna be really interesting to see where they take this after episode 5. It'll be very interesting, because I feel like with Ruby now, and one thing that I did notice too in episode 5, I don't know if you guys picked up on it. What was interesting was just because you're seeing Ruby's, I feel it's a more Ruby-centric episode, but Letitia definitely has her storyline too. But what I found interesting towards the end of the episode, Letitia, the last scene we saw of Letitia, she is in a bathtub with a Bible, right? Because now that she's realizing how deep this magic thing is going, and how Tick is kind of being attracted to the dark side, and with Tick's father killing the two-spirit Native American that they found in the episode before. And so I feel like Letitia is just kind of freaking out, where she's like, I don't, you know what I mean? So I feel like she's kind of reverting to a place of comfort. And I think religion is sort of like her haven or her safe space. And it's juxtaposed with Ruby kind of going in another direction, whereas Letitia is more going more back into like a Judeo-Christian, and then Ruby is more embracing magic, which I find interesting. I'm wondering I was wondering if that was something that they're gonna, if that's the trajectory as far as the storyline with Letitia and Ruby, is if that's something that they're interested in exploring. But
I hope they do. I hope they do, because especially right now there's a resurgence for a lot of us with ancient African religions, ancestor worship. I hope they do explore that that comparison, that dichotomy, right? Because Letitia and Ruby already have the kind of interesting sibling relationship. So I feel like setting them up to also take differing spiritual paths is, I feel like, the building stones for a very interesting conversation about how spirituality and Christianity function in our community. You know, because you still have people talking about how ancestor worship and everything else. You know, the devil. You know, it's always kind of our own ancestors' religions are written off as devil worship, and it's the most anti-Black shit I've ever heard. So I really do hope that they do address it, because I'm just like, listen, if this religion was good enough for great grandma Clarkisha, I think it's good enough for me too. But you know, that's just me. That's just me. So I do hope they explore that.
Yeah, I hope so too. You know what? Like, just even on a personal note, like just dealing with this whole quarantine and pandemic and this whole political unrest, like I grew up very religious, like in a very conservative Christian Baptist household, but like I would say maybe like the last couple of months or so, I've been taking up meditation, and it's just really been more thinking about like my, you know, the matriarchs before me and ancestral worship. So like when I meditate, I have a picture of my grandmother and my mom in front of me. I don't, you know, I'm not as detailed as other people. I have an interest of it, but I find that in the last couple of months, this is the most peaceful that I've ever felt. I don't exactly feel that Christianity has exactly helped me. If anything, it made me more anxious because it's more about this apocalyptic, like God is coming, he's going to destroy the world. I was like, that's not helpful to me. You know what I mean? When I'm trying to go to sleep. I'm not trying to think of, you know what I mean?
Very punishment based.
That's not helpful to me. Right. Very, very much so. Right. So it's very much like you did something wrong. Like if the reason why this is happening is because you did something wrong, but yet embracing my ancestors and doing the meditation, it's more of a place of peace of like, you know, I think of the challenges that they went through and the things that they had to overcome. So I'm trying to like kind of tap into this well of strength, right? But also trying to find my vulnerability at the same time. So yeah, that's a great point though, because I do know, I think Clarkisha, I saw there's a podcast, Therapy for Black Girls, and they do have an episode that talks about that, about about Black women now turning more into like African religion and ancestral religion, and the fact that we have to kind of decolonize ourselves. I mean, I have no judgment. If you know, Jesus is your Lord and Savior, good for you. I have no problem with that, but it's not for everybody. I don't think it works for everybody. Yeah. Oh, the last thing that I want to say real quick, because it was something that you said, Shannon, about how people may perceive that whole scene with Ruby and the manager as how they might see it as sexual assault. I want to see. I'm going to be interested to see the opinion pieces on that scene if they term it as sexual assault. And I'm just wondering if there's going to be a double standard in there, because if I remember correctly, something similar happened in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo when she was able to confront her rapist, right? There was some sort of penetration. And so I just want to know that if you have energy for Ruby in that scene, I would just be interested to see how you felt about that scene in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And that opens up a question of who gets to enact justice or vengeance, right? So yeah, because I mean, it's a whole genre of horror. Like you look at movies like, yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, like, it'll be interesting to see, like what exactly vengeance is supposed to look like. And who is going to get that. I think that a lot of fantasies that that we have when it comes to women kind of claiming theirs and women kind of going about it by any means necessary, quote unquote, they tend to look white. They tend to look like Letty. They tend to not look like Ruby. So it'll be interesting to see what the suggestion would be for Ruby in terms of getting that comeuppance and getting to have that moment. Because it was complex, it was uncomfortable, but would we have this many questions if she didn't look like her, if she looked like Letty, or if she looked like Christina?
Nae Bever, who's a Black queer woman and host of Attack of the Queer Wolf, talks a lot about how she finds catharsis in rape revenge movies, and the idea of rape, people who victims of rape getting back at either their attackers or somebody else who's perpetrating the crime. And I feel like it's definitely an individual decision on how you want to intake these scenes and what they mean to you. But I think to ignore the catharsis they give to an entire community of people who've been abused and harmed is dangerous. I think art doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to reflect our real world values. Sometimes it's meant just to be an emotional release. And I definitely feel that that's what was happening in the scene with Ruby. Like, this is a release for a lot of people, and an opportunity for them to get some kind of vengeance, justice, revenge, whatever you want to call it. Something that they obviously deserve.
I don't know, the moral aspect of it, I think, is going to be interesting to see what people say as well. Because, like you guys mentioned, when violence is wielded by a woman, usually if it's a white woman, it's like, go, rah, rah, girl power. And that same thing is not extended to Black women, because once again, the whole, the moral thing, we're held to a higher moral standard. So I am going to be also interested in seeing what kind of pieces come out about it, and kind of the ethics at play in that scene. So I think that's why it's gonna make people feel a little bit strange. They're like, should she be doing this as a Black woman, even though she's in a white? I feel like it's gonna be comments like that, kind of calling into play what the rest of us might do. And I'm like, I don't know, you might not like my answer, so let me shut up.
Oh my gosh. Alrighty. All right. Well, thank you so much, Clarkisha Kent, Joelle Monique, Shannon L. Miller. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Spectrum Lounge. See you on the other side.